Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it, just like a book club. On today's show, we're covering the classic Italian drama, 8½. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 1963, 8½, was directed by Federico Fellini and stars Marcello Mastroianni, Sandra Milo, and Claudia Cardinale. Sorry if there's any mispronunciation of those names. Guido Anselmi, a film director, finds himself creatively barren at the peak of his career. Urged by his doctors to rest, Anselmi heads for a luxurious resort, but a sorry group gathers: his producer, staff, actors, wife, mistress, and relatives, each one begging him to get on with the show. In retreat from their dependency, he fantasizes about past women and dreams of his childhood. It currently has a 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked 133 on its top 250. It was nominated for 3 Oscars for Best Art Direction, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Director, and won 2 Oscars for Best Costume Design and Best International Feature Film. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for 8½. We are going to be talking about the movie pretty much in its entirety, so we don't want you to get spoiled on anything. So if you want to go check out the movie for yourself, you should do that, and then come back here and we'll discuss it. So we don't want to ruin it for you. But stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what movie we're covering next week, because, as always, should be a good one. Alrighty, Kevin. So 8½, was my pick this week, and honestly, the choice to pick it was pretty simple. This is a movie that you look at any film critic, you look at any film like cinema snob, like the people who are like super into the artsy side of film, this is always in their top 10 of all time. And there's a big magazine that's put on by people in the film industry for people in the film industry called Sight and Sound, and they have always listed it in their top 10 best feature films of all time. And so with all this hype and how influential it is for the directors that we know and love, I just really wanted to check it out. I'd heard so much about it in film classes and just, in general. And so it was finally time to watch it. And I think on first viewing, I can say that this is probably the most challenging film that you and I have covered yet.
I definitely agree with that. I have not heard of 8½, before until I saw it on Max, and we put it onto the schedule here. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and then I recently just read the synopsis, I think this morning, about it. So it was kind of went in head first, pretty much, into the deep end and see what happened.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those movies that I hadn't seen anything on it really, except for like a couple of images and clips, and I just wanted to jump straight into. And I will say, kind of starting out, that if you don't understand what this film is going for, like just even by reading the synopsis that's on, Letterboxd or IMDb or whatever, I think that this film will be a little lost on you. And I think that, even with reading the synopsis, I would say that it was still kind of hard to keep up with. And I think we both mentioned it in our reviews that initially there's a little bit of confusion just because the movie moves between dreams and memories and reality and then like hopes. Like it kind of moves. And a word that we're going to use a lot is seamlessly, right?
Yeah.
It just, there's no like, I feel like if a movie came out today that did this, it would say like chapter 1 or chapter 2 or something like that, like a Tarantino film. This film doesn't do that. It just moves, and
and it doesn't have like a transition either. So viewing this, and I don't know how I recognized it, but I think at like the later half of the movie, I recognized like, oh wait, that's his dreams, his hopes, his fantasies, and it kind of clicked all together. But there was nothing to give me like a visual sight, because we are reading subtitles because it is in Italian, a visual sight like, hey, we're moving into something else that you should take a look at, or focus, this is a dream, or like how you said chapter 1 would be like for now, or like a good transition like through the eyes would be they'll do nowadays to see like a distant hope or something like that I can see. But yeah, it's too seamlessly, and I think we both put that on our reviews as well. It's it's too seamlessly, and you get very lost when you first watch. Like the first
Yeah.
like hour, I felt very, very not confused, but just like, was that real? Was that not real? Like second guessing myself.
Yeah, and I think that though ultimately that is the point, right?
Hmm.
Because we're supposed to be stepping into the shoes of Guido here, who is, for all intents and purposes, Guido is Fellini. This is
Mm,
a fictionalized autobiographical film about how Federico Fellini was feeling at the time. And when you look at how the director in this film, Guido, is just completely devoid of inspiration, like he's like he started this film, but it just has no interest in doing it really anymore, and
mhm,
is struggling to find inspiration, is exactly what Fellini was going through at that time.
mhm.
Which, fun fact, did you know that the film, and they don't say this in the movie, so you probably wouldn't have known anyway, that Eight and a Half, the film's title, is in reference to how many films Fellini had made before this.
Oh, no. So
Yeah.
he only made half of a film?
I guess it's probably counting like a short film or something.
Oh, okay.
I haven't looked at what the films are. I do know that one of them, though, is Bicycle Thieves, which we did cover
Oh,
a couple weeks
mhm.
ago. So
Yeah,
same director, you can very much tell that
yeah.
this is more like his artsy side for sure. A little bit more inflection and, like, I guess
Mhm,
looking into the self for sure. But I do think that that was the part that really stumped me, and it looks like it stumped you too. Where, like, how it does move seamlessly from reality to non-reality, but I do think that upon rewatching, and this is a film that I will most certainly rewatch,
mhm,
because everyone says this is a movie you pick up on new things every time,
mhm.
and that's the sign of a truly great movie. So, hopefully
Yeah.
that's true. But hopefully, upon a second viewing, I think that it can be more rewarding
Yeah,
and kind of,
more understandable as well. I feel
for
like
sure.
for me, especially because in my review I put that the subtitles move too fast, and I don't know because I'm dyslexic, it was going a little bit too fast for me, but I always had to rewind a little bit to see if I missed anything. So it took
Sure.
me a little bit longer to get through the movie because of how fast they were talking, and I know that's like a very not that's a very me problem, not for everybody else, but
Yeah.
it really takes away from the movie sometimes when I'm looking down at the bottom screen right here, but then trying to look up every single time. So that took me a little bit away from it, the movie as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think that, like, for me specifically, I think I just wasn't in the right mindset when I
Mm-hmm.
viewed the movie. I think, like, you know, it's not the sign of a good movie or a bad movie, but like some movies are made that you can just put them on no matter what. Your
Yeah.
favorite movie, maybe it's a horror movie, maybe it's a sci-fi movie, maybe it's an animated movie, and you can just put it on, and you don't have to be in any mood or another, and you can just enjoy it. I think this one, though, maybe I was a bit too tired and it was hard to pay attention. Maybe I, you know, wasn't immediately connecting with the film as much as I should have. But upon viewing it now, I realize kind of, I guess, what I need to go in expecting.
Hmm.
And I think that, for that reason, I think that I do want to go back, rewatch it, and it may get a higher score.
Yeah.
I don't think that this movie could get a lower score with
Hmm.
how universally beloved this movie is. But yeah, I think that it could have just been, the way that I looked at it. Maybe for you as well, not knowing anything,
Hmm.
kind of going in, which usually is a good idea. But for this one, maybe it
Maybe
wasn't.
not. Yeah.
But I do want to shift gears though into something that is just like you and I both talked about it in our review. That is probably, if anything in this movie, the single best part of it, and I think that is the cinematography.
Yep. Exactly.
It is gorgeous. Like, this
Hmm.
movie is so well shot. Like, even the for some reason, even the moments, like whenever Guido sees something, he just kind of like looks over and goes like this, right? There's
Hmm.
just something in the way that it's framed. Like, it's just absolutely gorgeous, and the use of lighting,
Hmm.
particularly in the kind of the resort in the beginning
Hmm.
of the film. It's just like that, mixed with the art direction and the set design too, is
Yeah.
just incredible.
Well, even when they're outside, I didn't understand that when they're outside getting the glass of water. That's something else. I didn't understand that whole sequence, but
Oh, so
uh,
that's the mineral water that is like the
oh,
medicinal healing kind of
okay,
thing, and that's why I believe his mistress got
gets a
sick.
fever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because she drank too much. But
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's the point of that resort, right? Is it's supposed to be rich in that mineral water that you can use
Gotcha.
to
Okay.
heal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind
So,
of hard to catch, but I
but
see what you're saying.
but the set in that is gorgeous as well because it doesn't like it looks like it's so bright in there, but it's the darks are so dark as well, and
Yeah,
it really just plays with itself being this amazing movie that can filter in darks and lights without having any color in it because this is a black and white movie. But that shot when I was watching it was like, oh, that's really good because nothing's blown out of proportion and nothing's so dark that it takes away from the lightness. And that's what I really liked about that shot.
yeah, and I think that is where I think the mixture, right, of the cinematography and the production design really come into effect,
Hmm.
because it's just like I want one of those benches that has like the two seats and then just arcs over. I want to
Yep.
get that and put it in the backyard. Like that just looks really cool. But yeah, everything just feels so meticulously planned and
Hmm.
executed when it comes to the camera. And we saw that with Bicycle Thieves. With Bicycle Thieves, it was, I wouldn't say it was like overstated like this film can be in some of its shots. And I'm not saying that
Hmm.
is a bad thing. Like, right, this movie is clearly meant to be more artistic. No, I mean,
Yeah.
well, artsy, not artistic, because Bicycle Thieves is still artistic as a film. But like that movie felt more like you were in the crowd and you
Yeah.
were more grounded points of view. And this one obviously feels more ethereal, more dreamlike in sequences, and I think that it really works for this movie. Um,
Hmm.
and Yeah, I think there's this phrase that's often thrown around every frame of painting. And usually I think you can use that for animated films, where like every single frame you could hang in a museum,
Yeah.
right? This one is one of those. Like you could show any of these frames in the exhibition somewhere, and it would kill because it's so beautifully done.
Yeah. Exactly.
But kind of moving along with that, though, is that I don't know if you picked up on this. I had talked about it in my review, where it almost felt like, when people were like, whenever Guido was like moving from place to place, it didn't feel like just a normal acting performance. Like he was just walking. Like it almost felt like a dance, like choreographed at points.
What? And they tried to show that during the movie as well with a lot of the dance numbers that he's dancing with. I think his mistress or something. But
There's
yeah,
also the points where he's seeing like his ideal woman.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah, but he's not moving his way to somewhere. He's dancing his way to somewhere. It's very tiptoe and not flat-footed.
yeah,
If that's a thing.
yeah. It's much more light on its feet. It's much
Hmm.
more flowing. I use this word again. It's ethereal, right? Like it's just. It also is one of those things that doesn't really help you trying to figure out if it's reality or a dream, right?
Hmm.
Because of how flowing the movement can sometimes be. And it's really, I think, the first time we've talked about this in any of our videos is how just the movement of itself is crazy. Like it's
Yeah.
just, it helps it feel so much better. Um, and that also just kind of leads me into like another part I want to talk about, which is the performances. And I think that everyone in this movie is good. I don't think there is a
Hmm.
bad person of the cast, but man, Marcelo as Guido is real good.
Yeah, I do think he's a little monotone sometimes. But
Sure.
he's struggling. So he doesn't want to be happy. He's always kind of depressed or sad because he doesn't know how to go throughout to do his movie, which I understand. And I understand that some people say that, oh, he's just always monotone, but we go through that phase sometimes. And I
Yeah.
understand what they were trying to go for. That maybe that's like my only gripe about him. But like with all the other women, I got lost of who was who a lot
Yeah.
of the time.
And I think that that's a little bit by design. because
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways he's trying to picture and imagine what his dream woman is, and in many ways it's a mixture of his wife and his mistress and the woman that his friend has left his wife to marry. Like there's definitely like, I think it is intentionally kind of hard to figure out who's who because he's going through that as well. And so I
Mm-hmm.
do think that could be by design.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the wife is the short-haired woman, correct?
I believe
That
so. Her name
he's
is Louisa.
Yeah. Okay,
Hmm.
that is who it is. Okay, I was right on that. Um,
Hey, there you go.
yeah, but
And
she.
actually, fun fact: the
Mhm.
the girl who plays his like ideal dream woman is Claudia Cardinale, who we last saw in Once Upon a Time in the West. She was the main
Oh,
woman in that movie.
okay,
So
that's
it's all
cool.
coming back.
um, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I
I
would
forgot.
be just thought just came in my head. I'd be really interested to see what we think of La Dolce Vita, which is Federico Fellini's other film that came out right before this one. It's a lot longer. It's like 3.5 hours, but it's all about like the depravity of the higher and more luxurious classes in Italy during the time. And
Okay.
it's also got Marcello in it,
Hmm.
the same actor.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a longer one, and I don't know if it's one that I'm going to jump on. I own it. I bought it because I wanted to have it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know about covering that one just yet. We probably put on the schedule for next year because
Yeah,
we're pretty scheduled out. But
we're booked.
we're booked for sure. But I do
Mm-hmm.
think that like I think a lot of what makes Marcello's performance good though is the fact that obviously this movie is about Fellini, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got Fellini giving him the notes. So you know that every part of his performance in this movie is by design. It
Mm-hmm.
is given a note. It is being told this is how it should be, and he's doing it.
Yeah.
And I really respect that for
Yeah,
sure.
because if he needed a, I don't know, like a sign or something, he could just look to the producer and be like, "What would you do in this situation?" And it's not like a comic book character where you're like, "What would they do?" And you have to go through like the comic books to see if how they would act. It's like he's the director; he's right there. Just ask him, and he'll tell you. He'll probably go through the motion of like, "Oh, I'll walk through the aisle like this, and maybe bump that chair a little bit because I'm a little bit clumsy." And give you that kind of an insight, which I think also directors should do because they have an eye for this, and that's why they're in directing and not being an actor or something.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I think it's just very well done,
Hmm.
and there's no really any other way to say it. But yeah, I think that at its core, though, I think that the movie is something that should be revisited. Like
Yeah,
this is a movie that I'm gonna watch again. I'm gonna keep these things in mind when I go into it, and my score could change
well,
at some point.
and it's nice to keep our reviews on Letterboxd too because when we rewatch this, we go back and read our old one and be like, "Oh, well, I can change that because I see this time and everything." So it kind of
Mhm.
contemplates yourself, asking yourself questions of what else did you see on the second rewatch.
Yeah, exactly. And you can change the score, you can change the stars you've given it,
Mm-hmm.
and as with any film, your opinion can change over time. So
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
can't really wait to talk about that. But I mean, honestly, I think that there isn't a whole lot else that I think I want to talk about with this movie, just because I do want to rewatch it, like I said. But also, I think people should watch this and decide for themselves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is happening? What do you think is real? What do you think is not? Um, and kind of go from there. And I think that is a very seamless way of getting us into what we thought of the movie. So
Mm-hmm.
this was the movie that I picked this week, and so I think that I'll go ahead and kind of give my score and final thoughts first here. Kind of at the end of the day, I think this is a movie, like I said, I'm going to be revisiting it. It just didn't really capture my imagination the first time, but I'm waiting for it to do that, on the next viewing. Um, it's supposed to be one of those films that's one of the best films about filmmaking, and I can totally see why. I just want to rewatch it again to see what I missed. But I do think it is immaculately shot. It is very well performed. The production design is incredible. So with that, at the end of the day, I gave the film an 88 out of 100, which is about a 4 stars on Letterboxd for me. And yeah, I can't wait to watch this one again. But Kevin, what did you think?
I did think the movie was a little confusing and a little bit too transitional, as like it seamlessly transitions into different things. So you have to really be paying attention to that. Um, but again, cinematography was fantastic. The sets that they created was great. The cast was good as well, which always helps the movie get bumped up a little bit when there's a cast that is very enjoyable, which everybody was here. I gave it a 72 out of 100, which is 3.5 stars. But that's not saying it's not going to change for with another rewatch, because this will have another rewatch from me, just because I understand a little bit more of the movie and I can go into it again. Just taking another look at this movie and kind of contemplating of what I saw the first time versus the second time.
Well, there you go. Well, that's what we think of 8.5. So thank you so much for joining. But the question now falls to you. What did you think of 8.5? If you watched it when we announced it last week, go ahead and leave those comments down in the description below, because we'd love to hear what you have to say. But just be respectful of one another, because you never know. One could be a producer and one could be a director. Next week, we'll be covering the comedy drama Catch Me If You Can, which I'm excited for because I've never seen it. I don't know if you have. So it's going to be a double header of a movie that we've never seen before. But make sure to watch it before next week so you're not spoiled. And again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here on YouTube at Real Watchers. Follow us everywhere on social media. And we have our live streams that go live every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, these Movie Club episodes that go live every Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you have it just in time for your morning commute. Again, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, keep those eyes on the screen.